Look at us.
Look at us. We're just a couple of rural gals trying to create community and entertain. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Annaliese, and we're Egg's most okayest farm girls. Grab a drink. We're here to help. Hello, Courtney.
Hi, friend. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Better now.
Good. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm in a different location today. It is very pink. There's also some blue stars on the wall. It's a vibe. I'm in Sage's room.
Yeah, I like it. Looks good. I'm in a closet still.
Hanging out in that closet, getting that good sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it dreary where you are today?
Very. It was pouring down rain when I shoved my child in the minivan to go to school.
Get out of here!
Kicking and screaming and crying. Oh my God.
Ugh, how fitting. Yeah, fitting. We'll get to today's topic in just a second, but first I wanted to read a review we received. It says, I just stumbled on y'all's podcast and I am cackling. Your positive outlook on life mixed with realism, humor, and a few cuss words is so relatable. How have I not found this podcast sooner? I'm over here realizing that rural living extends beyond Texas. If you are ever in need of another working mom feed store owner's point of view with messy farm trucks but a strong desire for an aesthetic life, my line is always open.
Aw, we love comments like this.
Makes it all worth it. Yeah, guys, please send us the DMs. Give us the reviews because we have fun doing this. We think we're funny. We think we're helping. It's a lot better when you tell us that we are.
Feed our ego a little bit, please.
A little bit. Keep us going. Sometimes we wonder about ourselves. But speaking of wondering about ourselves, a common question you and I both get is, how do you balance it all? So we thought it would be fun to talk about it. And this might be a short episode because the answer is we don't.
I know. Spoiler alert. We don't. It's a shit show.
Yep. I hate the word balance. It's juggling, right? Like there's only so many balls in the air. If I'm
in the air.
Like you juggling balls in the air.
My mind immediately went somewhere else. I'm sorry.
Courtney.
I'm in a weird mood. Carry on.
It's weird. No, but yeah, you know what I mean? Juggling. One ball in the air at a time. So like if I'm a really good mom, I might be neglecting my social media business. Or if I'm really good at my social media, then, something else is dropping. Like you can't be perfect at it all at once.
Right. Usually if like my social media is on point, like my house is a mess. There's piles of laundry. Like something's got to give, Exactly.
So before we get into the nitty gritty of it all, we wanted to make everyone feel at home here, feel like they maybe do have their shit together. We asked our followers for their mom fails, babysitter fails, business fails, and we got some good ones.
Yes.
These are good. Do you want to go first?
I can't wait to hear yours. So mine are kind of, some of them are long, some of them are short, but this gal says, we're not big beer drinkers, and one can happened to show up in our fridge. So I asked the 5-year-old about it, and he said he wanted it cold for when he drank it later. There's a lot of like alcohol-related ones and swearing ones, but...
Where'd he get this beer? Like, was it their beer?
I don't know. I don't
question.
I hope he didn't shoplift it.
One time I was babysitting my boss's kids. I was wearing a fleece pullover. I took it off and one of my athletic thongs fell off of it. I didn't notice it. One of the kids picked it up and said, "Whose is this?" I was like, "Oh shit, that's mine." I grabbed it from him and put it in my pocket. The kid was old enough to know it was underwear. And I said, it could have been worse. Like, thank God you found it. Otherwise, that would have raised quite a few questions when mom and dad came home.
Right?
She wrote back, thankfully it wasn't a lacy one. My dad also once found my bra in the driveway. I used to not put it back on after being at my boyfriend's house, and I would just carry it into my house. Well, one night I didn't realize it had fallen out while we were walking into the house. That was awkward.
Oh, that's real awkward. I one time had my shirt on backwards after hanging out with a boyfriend in high school. Oh. So I came home and my shirt was on backwards. And I was like, I've been wearing it like this all day. How embarrassing.
Did somebody say something?
I just said that and then face bright red and walked away.
Oh,
So
no.
my parents were probably like, okay.
She's up to something.
Yeah. This gal says her kindergartner said, what the fuck, at school because she said that's what mom says.
Ooh.
Just threw her mom under the bus. God, that's even worse.
I hate when kids use stuff against you. So with the twins, I always like to try to get them to eat new foods. And even if it's something they say they don't like, I'm always telling them your taste buds are always changing. Give it another whirl. You might like it.
Yeah.
And it works. But one day I was making the twins eggs for breakfast, and all of a sudden Lane's like, I don't like eggs anymore. I was like, what do you mean? You just had eggs yesterday. You love eggs. He's like, taste buds are always changing. I was like, you son of a gun.
A little shit.
It'll get ya.
Yep.
Yeah. My kindergartner kept telling me about the girl next to him at school, correcting his work and telling him he was doing it wrong. We worked with him about how to tell her nicely that he didn't like it, and he did, only to have her tell him more. Finally, after maybe the third week of this little princess know-it-all making my kid feel stupid, I said to my 5-year-old, you know what, buddy? This girl is a know-it-all. Nobody likes know-it-alls, and she's not going to have any friends, so she can just take a hike. You don't need to acknowledge her anymore. Set a boundary and ignore her. The next night, he came home so proud of himself. I asked how school was, and he said, it was great. I told that girl no one likes her and she can walk off a cliff because my mom said so.
That's so bad. Oh my God.
The girl's mom has been mean mugging me at pickup since. But also it worked. She hasn't talked to him since.
Oh no. Oh, love it when your kids just totally twist your words.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's a good one. I placed a note in my first grader's bag to ride the bus home. School was canceled for snow that day, and I forgot to remove the note. So the next day she rode the bus home instead of daycare, but no one was home. We live out in the country. I went to daycare and there was no kid. Luckily, the bus driver realized my truck wasn't home and had her ride the whole route with him because there was no cell phones. This was like 2008. My daughter was so livid with me. She was 6 at the time. She's 22 now, and she has never forgotten.
Oh, that's sad.
Like my worst fear is like not making it home in time before my kids get off the bus.
Mm-hmm. I was babysitting as a teen. Kids were responsible and could be outside alone. I let one boy go out alone while the other finished dinner. I heard screaming, so I went running outside. He had a hitch fall on him, pinning him to the ground. I had to get it off of him and carry him into the house. Meanwhile, he pooped his pants in the middle of all of this. He was 7 or 8 and still moving, so I had to wipe his nasty little bottom. He turned out just fine, but that family has never asked me to babysit again.
Oh, no.
She's like,
yeah, I mean,
stays anonymous.
I mean, normally, yeah, you're 8 years old. You can play outside somewhat unsupervised, like.
Right.
But yeah, shit happens, man. This woman was gardening and she caught her 3-year-old halfway up a hay elevator. That's terrifying. Speaking of 3-year-olds, I remember I had Ellie, who was around 2 or 3, and I went outside to like water just a planter on our porch, and we had a storm door, so like I could see the baby in her little bouncer. I could see my toddler. I thought it was safe to just, go water a plant. And I was so wrong. The second I turned my back, little 3-year-old Ellie locked the storm door, and it was super easy to lock, but it's really hard to unlock. Like even I struggle with it. I put it together. That's probably why. It's messed up. But anyways, yeah, she locked me out of the house with the baby in there. Just a toddler and a baby living their lives inside the house. I had to call my father-in-law because Aaron was like on the road that day, and he came over with a giant ladder, and we had to like break into our house. It was super fun.
I guess my big mom fail, or just the one that comes to mind, was we were getting ready to go to the farm. I, as per usual, had told the kids several times to get their barn clothes on, get going, and they just kept screwing around. And so I'm getting mad, and finally I was just like, Sage was done, she was outside, and I was like, Lane, get your stuff on and get outside, like we're going. And I walked out. And then he opens the garage door and he's like crying and screaming, and I'm yelling at him like, why don't you have any shoes on? Get your shoes on. Get going. And then he keeps screaming something, and I'm like, what could you possibly need? You could put your shoes on by yourself. And he's like, I just want a hug. He had been screaming for a hug the whole time. Like, he'd been
no
tough day, because I'm always like, do you just need a hug? You know, sometimes that's it. And so I felt just terrible because I was reaming his poor little butt while all he wanted was a hug.
Oh gosh, break your heart, man.
I know. Do you have any more good stories?
Once sucked up a gerbil in a vacuum and I couldn't figure why I lost suction.
Did the gerbil live?
Probably not. I didn't ask.
So my sister has special needs and uses a wheelchair. I figured out how to pick her up and transfer her out of the chair when I was around 10 and fell into the natural role as a second caregiver. So we're home alone on the farm. I'm probably 14, 15 years old, no driver's license. That's key here. It's a beautiful spring day in April, and we're not happy with the snacks available for us in the house. So, like any good problem-solving farm kid, I load my sister and her wheelchair up in the side-by-side along with our black lab, and we start out cross lots to go to the country store that's a mile up the road. But it's spring in upstate New York. The creek is pretty high, and I don't give it a second thought. We make it 2/3 of the way through the creek, and the water floods the engine out, and it stalls. So I can't go forwards or backwards. So I carry Sarah, that's her sister, back across the creek and go back to get her wheelchair. I carry that across, then the stupid dog. Okay, maybe the smart dog. The dog also needed to be carried across the creek. The water was like mid-thigh high and cold. I was also concerned that the side-by-side might be taken downstream by the current, so after everyone was unloaded and safe, I went back over and pushed the side-by-side as far as I could out of the creek. Then I had to push my sister and her wheelchair all the way back to the farm. Did I mention that the creek is at the bottom of a very steep hill that our farm sits on top of? Needless to say, we did not get any junk food to snack on that day. I think my parents didn't give me an extra punishment. The whole ordeal was a lesson enough.
No kidding. That is a lot of physical labor.
For not even getting the snack.
I know, all for nothing.
The struggles. Okay, mom fails, lady fails. We all fail, okay? Nobody's got it all figured out. We talk about that a lot. I think the topic of this is going to be how badass women are. By the end of this conversation, people are going to be like, oh, you know what? I am pretty awesome. Other women are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I Googled a few badass women stats. So the proportion of women with college degrees in the labor force has almost quadrupled since 1970. More than 40% of women in the labor force had college degrees in 2016, compared to just 11% in 1970.
Wow.
Isn't that a big jump?
Yeah, we've come a long way.
Long way. So let's kind of talk about the different eras. Because I think whether you're listening to this and you're like me and Courtney and you're in the midst of motherhood with littles, or maybe you're a newlywed, or maybe you just graduated and are taking a new job, like there's different struggles that come with each era or each season of life. Let's take it back to graduating.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to talk about graduating high school and how, like, I did not know what I wanted to do. Did you?
Yes and no. I knew I wanted to be involved in agriculture, but I wasn't quite sure I wanted to go back to the farm. So I went to UWRF, Go Falcons, where initially I majored in egg business because I was like, egg business, that sounds like a generic place for someone who wants to be an egg to start. But I quickly realized egg business is like numbers and math classes, and I was like, hell to the no.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Was terrible. I hate math, guys. I'm the worst at math. So then I switched my major to egg marketing, which I liked, but after some internships, I realized I didn't really like people all that much. Like I didn't like that role. I didn't like that job. I just wanted to hang out with my cows. So then I switched my major to dairy science. I would say I was pretty certain I wanted to go back to the family farm. I don't think I knew that until my senior year of college. Like it took a hot minute to figure it out.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time I was so envious of the kids that were like graduating high school and they were like, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to go to school for nursing. I want to be a nurse or blah, 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 whatever it is. All I knew was that I liked art. That was it. And so I feel like my mom kind of talked me into an interior design degree. I was like, okay, I'll try it. So yeah, like graduating college with an interior design degree. So it was 2010. I could not find a decent job to save my life. The workforce was real tricky in 2010. I don't know if you had similar issues, but
yeah.
I landed like a salesperson job, basically like selling flooring and cabinets and countertops and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's not really what I signed up for. Like, I don't want to be a salesperson.
Right.
So it took a long, long time, long journey to figure out what I wanted to do. And I just felt like so stressed about it.
Mm-hmm. And I think the funny thing is about being that young and being in that era is that you're going to school and you're making all these big decisions that you think are going to play such a role in the rest of your life. And I think we can both say, like, I went to school for dairy science. Yes, I'm still a farmer, but I also have this online business now. Like, never in a million years would, like, if someone would have told me, oh yeah, Annaliese, you're going to be a public speaker, you're going to host retreats, you're going to make money online, you're going to be a digital creator, I would have been like, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And same to you. Like, your journey was very different than what you went to school for.
Yeah. The common theme growing up was I loved animals and I loved art. And I took this totally roundabout way of getting to where I'm at right now. But now that I'm here, I'm like, it makes sense. Like my journey. Like it took a long time, but I finally am where I want to be.
Same. It's wild how it all came to be, but I wouldn't do anything differently. And I'm super happy with where I am today. So I guess, yeah, my advice, if you are young and trying to figure out what you want to do, like, just start doing things because it's not going to matter. Just listen to your gut, learn new things, meet new people, see where it takes you, but you're going to pave your own way.
Yes. So I started with interior design, went to animal rescue, went to healthcare, went to ranching and being an artist. So like, just do stuff. That's my advice. Just do all the things until you figure it out.
Yeah. I don't know. When you go to school, you think you have to go to school for one single passion, right? Like, I can only love one thing, and that's what I have to do for the rest of my life and make money doing. And it's like, actually, you can be multi-passionate. You can take all of those passions and create your own wonderful thing.
And that's a lot of pressure for a 17-year-old. Like, we were making these decisions when we were teenagers. What teenager knows what they want to do? They don't even know, like, who they are, or at least I didn't.
You know what else is interesting is side hustles these days. I feel like more and more people are taking on side hustles or just being business owners in general. But I found an interesting statistic on the side hustles. 34% or 1 in 3 Americans have a side gig, and almost 50% of people with a side gig do it because they want to, not because of financial constraints. Again, it just, like, either people are multi-passionate and they want to do these two different things, or maybe their career, their number one job is something they felt like they had to do, or, and then now their side gig is like the thing that's bringing them joy. And so if you find your in that situation, my advice is to make sure both things are bringing you joy.
Right. That was exactly how things played out for me. Like, I was full-time in healthcare for a long time, had kids, went down to part-time, but then I started this side hustle with social media, and then like our ranching business grew, and all these side hustles became what I really wanted to do. So then I just like nixed the healthcare completely. Was like, bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia. I guess the next era, at least for me, I graduated college, and then it was like, you get married. And I think a lot of rural women can relate to the fact that, I don't know, maybe you lose yourself a little bit in this era. I think most rural women end up going to their significant other's farm. At least both you and I did. right? Or you kind of follow
Yep.
what your soul wants to do. And so that was different going, I don't know, I considered myself a little boss bitch back in the day, when I was in college. But then, yeah, I went to Tom's family farm and it's a new family. It's a new farm. You're trying to figure out your role, your dynamic. You're maybe doing things again that you think you have to do, that other people are expecting you to do. But again, is it true to who you are?
Right. And there's also that weird dynamic, like, I don't know is Tom a mama's boy? Or not really?
His sisters would probably say yes, and he would say no.
I feel like Aaron would say the same. But yeah, I feel like when I moved in, like he was expecting me to take over duties that his mom would do, like I remember one time his dog got injured. She needed stitches. And so he was like, I need you to take off work to take my dog in to the vet. And I was like, no, you're self-employed. Like you can take your own dog in.
Yeah.
So I refused. I went to work and he had his mom take off work to take his dog in. He's going to kill me for telling the story. But I was like, this is not how it's going to be, honey. Like, and then just with like cooking and stuff, like I think he thought I was going to take over that role. And at the time, like I didn't know shit about cooking. I hated it. I didn't want to learn it. So I was like, I'm going to move in, but we're going to do cooking together because I'm not about that life.
Right? Well, good for you. Not that like Tom expected me to do anything, but I think like based upon the role models I had who are wives, you have this perception of what your duties have to become, and you fall into a role that like you can do it your own way.
Yes.
You don't have to do it the way it's been done.
Right.
Right? The newlywed phase is weird because it's not just you anymore. You're figuring out yourself as a couple, and it's easy, I think, to morph into who you are as a couple and lose some of your individuality.
Yeah.
It's a weird era. Every little season of life, the older I get, the more I
we sound so wise.
So wise.
Looking back, like I thought I was so old and such an adult when I married Aaron, but I was only 23 when I got engaged. Like I was a kid. Like I was dumb. I didn't know shit about anything.
I actually just shared this thing on Instagram today that says, really wild how we grow up thinking there's so much structure in the world of adults, and then one day it just dawns on you that nearly everyone is completely fucking winging it.
Well, if that ain't the truth, there's no structure to my days. It's just like...
Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stay focused, but I'm just so ADHD all the time and scatterbrained.
I honestly think it gets worse as you get older, because then we can move on into like the mom phase, which is where you and I are. So like motherhood's a trip, man.
It's so hard. It's just the hardest, like most rewarding, obviously, but
yeah, I think whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a working mom, or a working from home mom, you get the work-life balance, the mom guilt, imposter syndrome. I mean, life is a head game, especially for women. Like I was just complaining to Tom today about like, am I doing enough? Because I feel like I'm constantly battling wanting to be at the farm, but also wanting to have like my own business and my own stuff with Modern Day Farm Chicken. I just am always like, where do I put myself? And is this enough?
I feel you, girl. I always feel like I should be doing more.
Same.
For this episode, I made a list of like kind of all the roles that I fill in my life right now. And it's a lot. I don't know why I'm always stressing like, oh, I should be farther along on this journey. It's like when you list those things out, I'm doing a hell of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So give yourself some grace.
Highly recommend everyone to list out, because I make a to-do list every day, but there's so many things that I forget to put on there because it's just everyday stuff that you kind of just brainlessly do it. But they're big things like the laundry, the dishes, making sure the walls aren't sticky, there's not shit on the floor.
Right.
things. You need to put them off your list and cross them off. And I think you'll be so surprised at all the things you do in a day when you do make that list.
Exactly. Like all those things take time.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of doing all the things, let's talk a little bit about how each one of us does outsource or ask for help. Asking for help is a tough thing to do, especially, I think, rural gals. They want to do it all, but we can't. You'll go crazy.
Yeah.
So where do you ask for help?
So this is like my biggest downfall is I have a hard time outsourcing things, mainly because I'm very cheap.
Yeah.
So, like, the more things you outsource, people aren't doing that shit for free. Like, you got to pay up. So, I really struggle where I'm like, oh, I could save us money here. Oh, I could save us money here. It's just something's got to give. So, we do outsource bookkeeping and we have a lady do our taxes, but I still feel like I'm the one responsible for getting all the paperwork and the forms and, expenses and all that stuff to those people. But it does definitely help. I need that right now because I can't do all this on my own.
Yeah, it's so much. And time is money. That's something for you cheapskates to think about. Like your time, like if you could get that time back, I mean, there's value in that. And that's what I try to keep in mind. But I'm still maybe a little bit like you where it's just hard to let go of things. I do use a booker. We have someone do our taxes. I have my in-laws who will help with the kids when I need them, but still that's a tough one to ask. Especially like being on the farm.
Guilty.
Yeah, right. So my in-laws live on the farm. So when we're down there doing chores and stuff, it's natural for the kids to just run into their house. What's grandma and grandpa doing? Of course, grandma and grandpa always give them chips and ice cream, so they want to be in there. But so then I feel it's harder then to ask, like when we really need a babysitter, I feel guilty asking because I was like, well, the kids were just in there yesterday or just in there this morning. It's a funny thing.
Yeah, same scenario plays out over here because just the other night, we have cows behind their house. So when we take the kids over there, like you said, naturally just run in the house and they get ice cream and treats, candy. And of course, their nana is like, you can come in, we can, hang out for a little bit. So it makes it like, I feel so guilty asking for help and for them to watch my kids because I feel like they already do so much, both my mom and my mother-in-law.
I feel the same way. It is. I did once hire someone to clean our house.
How'd that go?
I haven't done it regularly. We were actually leaving for a trip, and because I'm the type of cleaner, I don't like clutter, but I will shove the shit out of a drawer, okay? Like everything's just getting out of sight, out of mind. We're shoving it in places. And I don't dust baseboards. I'm not cleaning the windows, like all the deep clean stuff. So when we were leaving for a trip, it's actually a neighbor who has her own cleaning business. I was like, will you come deep clean our house? She did, and it was amazing. And we came home to like the cleanest house I've ever seen. It smelled so fresh and so nice. And I kind of,
amazing.
Yeah. I kind of would like to have her come do that maybe once a month or every other month. Like I'm good at picking stuff up and keeping up with the dishes and stuff like that. But to just have somebody really come get the grime off of things would be nice.
I really just don't clean at all.
I don't like it.
I pick up, like, I'm a decluttering freak. Everything is picked up and put in their place. But if you look closely, everything's pretty grimy.
Like when the sun shines in from a window and you can see how dirty the floor really is. It's like, close the curtains.
Yeah. Or that, like, one time every couple months when you have friends come over and you actually clean and you take a look at what you've been living in for the last 2 months and you're like, this place is disgusting.
Right? I think asking for help is huge. And look, me and Courtney aren't the best at it, guys, but it's important to make time for yourself. No matter whether you have kids or not, like take something off your plate. Don't try to do it all. Go have a date. Go out with your friends. Go get a pedicure. Have a little self-care. Okay? You don't have to be going at it 24/7.
I spent years and years, basically ever since I had kids, not caring for myself, not doing exercise, like not caring about food, just whatever I had available, I would eat. Like I just wasn't conscious. I didn't have the mental space. So when I quit my job in healthcare, I feel like I actually have time to go work out, to take care of my mental health. I know that that's not possible for everybody, but also I feel tricked. Like they made me feel like I had to work that job when really I didn't. Just everyone around me was like, you need those benefits though. I'm like, yeah, but there's other ways.
Right. This generation is definitely thinking more outside the box and realizing we don't have to do things the way they've been doing them for so many years. We can be happier doing things differently, asking for help.
Exactly.
Filling your plate with the things that truly bring you joy and getting rid of the things that don't. Like, you're not going to have time to do things that make you happy if you're filling your plate up with all this shit you don't even want to do. Stuff you think you have to do for other people that you think is expected of you.
Right. Do you have anything else you outsource?
Not really. Obviously, on the farm, like, we have employees. We milk 600 cows, and it's Tom and I, and then his parents, and then we have 11 full-time employees who help us get everything done. And we're very thankful for them because the farm life, it's hard to get away. And we're like lucky to have employees. So if we do want to take a day off, or if we have an appointment, or we want to go to our kids' t-ball game, we can make that work, which is amazing. And I know that's tricky depending on the size of your farm and what you have available. I'm trying to think, are there more ways you wish you could outsource or drop a ball?
So many balls.
No.
Oh, we forgot one. We do have outsourced the editing of our podcast.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot off our plate.
If you guys are listening to this podcast and you're like, oh my gosh, they make it sound so good. Their conversation.
It's not us.
Nope. Jill goes through and edits this podcast and makes it sound like the most streamlined conversation ever. But if you could listen to the raw, did you see that?
Did you just spit on yourself?
No, it was snot. Snot just shot out.
See, she's probably going to edit this out and no one will know.
Hopefully she keeps that part. But there are so many awkward pauses that you and I sometimes have and we're like, huh?
Yeah, especially this girl.
Was there anything else you want to say when it comes to how do you balance it all? How do you do it all, Courtney?
The answer is we don't. But I think a lot of women in ag are just stretched really thin. And that's why we got so many people commenting to talk about this. So I hope it was valuable.
I hope so too.
For you all.
I did just think of one more thing I wanted to share about being stretched too thin, or just women having to deal with bullshit that men don't. This last weekend, I hosted Farm and Grow the Retreat, and there was a woman there who has an egg corporate job. And she was telling me how she wants to start some sort of mentorship program with women in her company and even women outside of her company, because so many women have questions, but they're too scared to ask a male superior because a male superior will make them feel like a dumb ass. And so this woman is always getting all these other women coming to her, which is that's a second job, having to basically mentor all these women and help answer their questions because they don't feel comfortable enough to go to a male superior or the person they should be. She was even this finance group comes and visits this other egg company. And so many of these finance women don't come from agriculture and they have questions and they all feel comfortable enough to go to this woman, but not others. I know we're in our stay-at-home mom era, but I think of all those women out there in the trenches of, different egg jobs that just take on a lot more than probably their male coworkers do. You deal with so much more. I mean, we could get into sexual harassment and the way males talk to you, or I talked a little bit about being in marketing and I did internships in sales and I'd go visit different farms and I had my sales pitch that I was supposed to give to a male farmer. And there was a lot of times the males wouldn't even give me the time of day because I was a woman and they wouldn't look me in the eye. And just
I feel like we could make it a whole episode about this topic. But yeah, I feel that. Even first starting out in farming, I would ask Aaron questions and he would look at me like I was some kind of idiot. I'm like, I did not grow up in this around farming. How would I know that? It seems like a dumb question to you, but I grew up in the burbs, honey.
And there are no dumb questions. And if we can't ask other people, how are we ever going to learn? That's how we learn stuff, by asking questions.
Exactly.
That's all I have to say about that. I think if we keep going, this will be a 2-hour episode because I feel like I just opened a can of worms on that topic.
I know. Gosh, I feel like it's such a bummer that women can't ask those questions without that.
Yeah.
He needs to have a mentorship. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. So, anyways, to summarize, women are badass. Don't feel bad asking questions. Do what makes you happy. Ask for help.
Yeah. Eliminate things off your plate. Some things just gotta go, man.
Right? Gotta go. Well, speaking of going, on to the next thing. What's next on your list? What are you doing the rest of the day?
I don't know. I have to look at my to-do list. It's like a paragraph long.
All right. Well, you look at that to-do list and see what you can outsource, my friend.
Yeah, or just cut out completely.
Yeah, just don't do it.
It's gonna be laundry, that's for sure.
Wear those undies inside out.
Yes.
You have a day, Courtney.
You have a day. Goodbye, friend.
Bye. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us today.
If you had as much fun as we did, would you do us a favor and share this episode with a friend?
Speaking of friends, can we all be friends over on the Instagram? You can find me at @modfarmchick.
And me at Mrs. Green Pastures Cattle.
See you next week, guys.